Back to channel. Today we are going to start pharmacology, mainly general pharmacology. So let us start with introduction of pharmacology. What is pharmacology? It is mainly derived from the words like pharmakon along with the logia. So pharmakon means drug and logia means study. So pharmacology is nothing but the study of drugs. So not only study of drugs, it says the source from which the drugs are coming, the structure of the drugs, the effect of the drug, the uses of the drugs and the side effects, etc. So what are drugs actually? So drug is a chemical with a known structure and that alters the pathophysiology for the therapeutic gain. So it is nothing but a chemical. It is used mainly to alter the pathophysiology, so any disease, to alter that, and mainly for therapeutic gain. Therapeutic means for our health useful gain. So example, here we can take the enalapril, which is a chemical. It is mainly altering the RAS system, that is blocking the RAS system. So thereby there is a therapeutic gain, that is it is decreasing the blood pressure or BP. So this is what we can explain this by example like this. The definition of drug. Now source. So from where it is derived? It is mainly derived from chemicals. So those chemicals are from where? So mainly the chemicals may be there from natural origin, like, or from natural chemical alterations, or also maybe by synthetic chemicals. So first by natural origin, like plants, animals, microorganisms. So examples of drugs from plants are like quinine, morphine, reserpine, and from animals are like insulin, heparin. Heparin is actually derived from porcine intestinal mucosa. Even insulin is derived from porcine animal. And microorganisms like antibiotics are derived from them, mainly like penicillin, bleomycin. So they are derived from that, and they're also used to kill or to inactivate them. So from natural chemicals, we are doing some alterations in the natural chemicals and forming the semi-synthetic chemicals. So what are the examples like of semi-synthetic chemicals? Morphine. So morphine is it is a natural substance. When it is having some alteration, then it is connected into semi-synthetic material, that is diacetyl morphine, which is nothing but called heroin. So now let us see from how synthetic chemicals are formed. So this is nowadays most common, that is synthetic chemicals. It is the method is known as rational drug design, which is used nowadays. So this rational drug design is nothing but, it is, for example, we are having some receptor and we are going to design a drug to bind to that receptor and block it. So we are going to make our own desirable drugs according to the disease or according to the substance which we want to block. So now let us see the products of genetic engineering. Even now we are forming drugs by products of genetic engineering, like which are mainly used to synthesize the peptides, and they're having the important role to introduce, for example, if we introduce a gene into the cell line and we are producing a product of interest, that is nothing but a drug. So here we have example like we have decoded the human gene, like in case of human insulin we have injected into the cell line and we are forming the regular insulin. So this regular insulin now can be used on our human body because it is derived from the human body and also given to the human body. So there would be no much side effects, and it has more better than animal insulin. So human insulin, if we change some amino acid sequence of their genes, then we can form many types of insulin like lispro, glulysin as a part. So change in the duration and the onset of action. So we can also change in duration and onset of action by means of this genetic engineering. Like we can decrease the duration, and that is we can give for faster time and increase fast onset of action. So instead, in before days we used to give 4 times a day tablet, but now we can only give for 1 time, so that it is having more amount of effectiveness on our body. So now let us see the drug nomenclature. So mainly the drug is divided into 3 names in the case of nomenclature. It has a chemical name, it is non-property or generic name, and it is also having proprietary or brand or trade name. So what is the chemical name? It is mainly based on the structure. It is very lengthy name, so we are not using it normally. But non-proprietary generic name, it is nothing but the shorter form or the abbreviated form of a chemical name, like propranolol. So we can see lol. This lol ending, all names are almost like beta blockers. So example, we can take prils. Pril, at the end we have pril in any chemical name, then it is mainly ACE inhibitors. And if you're having dipine at the end, that is mainly calcium channel blockers. So in prescription it's better to write these names, that is so doctor always in a prescription for doctors it's always better to write this non-proprietary or generic name. Now let us see the property or brand name. We know there are many different brand names. Example, you can take Beta Cap, Ciplar. So actually this Beta Cap, Ciplar, this both are belonging to the same chemical, that is these are beta inhibitors, beta blockers, but they're having different names according to their pharmaceutical companies. Like Sun Pharma produces Beta Cap, Cipla produces Ciplar, so like that. Now let us see the types of drugs, or like they are divided into prescription legend drugs, OTC drugs or over the counter drugs, orphan drugs, essential drugs, illicit or street drugs, spurious drug, and also so there are 6 types of drugs. So what are these types? Let us understand one by one. So the first drug we have here is prescription or legend drugs. So these are mainly drugs that are sold only after a prescription given by a doctor. So these are, as a name you can understand, prescription. And next, OTC drugs or over the counter drugs. So these are the drugs which can be sold mainly without prescription, like common drugs. All drugs are OTC except the drugs which belong to the schedule. So we see on back of tablets like the schedule G, H, X. So these drugs should be prescribed by the doctors, otherwise they should be not sold. So what are orphan drugs? Orphan drugs are mainly used for the rare diseases, like in the treatment, prophylaxis or diagnosis of the rare diseases. So rare diseases drugs are orphan drugs. And one more important point is orphan receptor. So what is this? This is a receptor without a known ligand. So we don't know any ligand which can bind to the receptor. So these kind of are known as orphan receptor, that is they are having no parents to the receptor. So let us see the essential drug. As the name you can understand, they're essential. Like these group of drugs which mainly satisfy the healthcare needs of majority of population in a country, specific country. So the country specific example in India, it is malarial endemic area. So anti-malarial drugs will be in the list of essential drugs for sure. So till now in India we are having 376 drugs which are essential drugs. So next we have illicit or street drug. So what is this? This is a drug of abuse, like which is not to be used, like cocaine, heroin, etc. So spurious drugs, which are counterfeit drugs, that is they're having same dose, they are less dose, or they're having different drug only. So these are like duplicate drugs, which may or sometimes have same dose or less dose or completely different drug they may present. So like a duplicate drug. So what is drug compendia? Drug compendia is nothing but a comprehensive collection of information about drugs in the form of a book. So we have all details of a drug in a book. This is nothing but known as drug compendia, and it is further divided into 2 types, like an Indian pharmacopoeia and drug formulary. So Indian pharmacopoeia is mainly made mostly by pharmacists, where pharmacists are mainly concerned with the drug structure, its purity, storage for the drug manufacturers. And so this is mainly for drug manufacturers and also for drug regulating authorities, but not mainly for doctors. So even doctors should follow up, but not it's not important that much for doctors. But the drug formulary is mostly important, and also it is made by doctors, that is mainly dealing with the drug indication, its doses, its side effects. So it is mainly for doctors, and it is mainly seen in a clinical practice. So next we are having the route of drug administration. So how we can put this drug into a patient by which means? So it is divided into local and systemic means. Systemic means it affects on all over the body, and local means only on a specific site. So there are many types according to this. So first let us discuss one by one. The first one is intranasal. As the name you can understand, by nasal, that is by our nose, intranasal. So these are having some benefits and also drawbacks. The benefits are like mainly peptides can be used by intranasal route, so that they can bypass the blood-brain barrier, so they can easily reach the central nervous system. So which drugs which are not able to given by central nervous system directly, because then if we give they can't cross this blood-brain barrier. So by intranasal we can give those kind of drugs, and they're having rapid effect because they're easily given to the nose and easily absorbed. So the ease of administration is very good. Here the examples are like GnRH agonist, and GnRH agonists, and also desmopressin, calcitonin, and fentanyl. So these are the examples. What are the drawbacks of intranasal? Are like they're having only high potency drugs which can be given because lesser dose is accommodated in the nasal cavity. Yeah, remember that intranasal drugs are highly potent because only some amount only can fit in our nose. So that small amount only should be highly potent in the case of intranasal. Let us see the pulmonary inhalation. So these are also having systemic and local effect. In the systemic effect, example you can take Afrizza. It is a postprandial hyperglycemic drug which is given. So it is mainly by inhalation insulin. The benefit is rapid absorption and effect, and there is no first pass metabolism taking place in the liver. So the drawback is cough and bronchoplasm because it's inhaled. So it may affect the bronchoplasm, constrict the bronchioles, and also it may cause the cough. So what is the local effect? Like you can take beta 2 agonist or anticholinergics. So treatment of mainly in the bronchial asthma and COPD we use this. And the local effects are like benefits, rapid effect, and less systemic side effects because it is giving locally only to the lungs. So systemic side effects would be not so prominent. So now let us see the third one, that is sublingual, that is put under our tongue. So they are also having benefits, drawbacks. So benefits are like rapid effect, so we can use in emergency cases, and there is again no first pass metabolism, and the drug can be spitted out after its use, right? Because under our tongue, so we can easily spit it out. And the drawbacks are like teeth discoloration because we are putting in a tongue under tongue, so teeth may discolor and cause decay. But there are more amount of cardiac side effects too, so this is a big one. Because why this? Because under the tongue, if you put there, this drug is can easily absorbed into the superior vena cava, so directly enter into heart. So this may be the side effect. So example, but in the case of emergency, we need to use it. So here the examples are like nitroglycerin, isodorbine, and brepnerofine, and ephedrine, and dinitrate, and also ergotamine. So these are few examples of sublingual. So the examples are most important to remember. Next, coming to the oral, and the most important one is the most common one. As we know, we take all tablets by oral route. So benefits are like it's cheapest, convenient, safest because no one is needed. We can do it by ourselves. It's convenient and also safest method. But the drawbacks are like it has first part metabolism in the liver, and the variable absorption, like sometimes these drugs may be affected according to food intake and enzymes in our stomach like HCl, and also drug properties like they should be lipid soluble because they need to cross the cell membrane, and their size should be very small, not very small, okay, they should be small. And the proteins should have large size. The proteins which are in large size cannot have the oral route administration. And remember that the drugs ending with A's are like enzyme proteins like paragenase, rasparicase, and ending with tide like peptides like octreotide, nesiritide, and with MAB, that is monoclonal antibodies, transumab, ricrucimab. So all these are related to proteins, so they can't be given by the oral route. So next year we know there are like tablets or capsules. These are also extended and having sustained release nowadays. So controlled release is made for short T half drugs like 2 to 6 hours, so the half life would increase more than 12 hours. So this can lead to less frequency dosing. As we said, instead of giving a drug 4 times, we will give only 1 time, so that no peaks are observed. Like if we give drugs 4 times, so every 4 times if we are using drug, that peak will be maintained in a graph. But if you take in a controlled release, there will be no peaks, it will be equal throughout a day. So next, coming to the enteric coated, these are like made for acid labile drugs. As we know, these drugs should pass through the stomach, so they should be acid labile. Next, coming to the intravenous drugs, as we know, they are passed through the intravenous, so the benefit is most rapid mode of absorption for emergency, and this is also not having any first pass metabolism and 100% bioavailability. So what is this bioavailability? Is nothing but organ can get almost concentration medicine, that is nothing but 100% bioavailability, and the large volume of drug can be given also in the case of intravenous. But the drawbacks are like infections, because we are piercing, so that infection risk, and the drugs in the oily medium may cause the side effects like hemolysis, so the oily medium drugs should not be given intravenously. And examples of like intravenous adenosine, drug of choice for PSVT, and intravenous nicardipine, drug of choice for hypertension emergency, and also like drug of choice and also intravenous lorazepam for epilepticus. So next, coming to intramuscular, into a muscle. So the benefits are like drugs in the oily medium can be used here, that is having longer duration of action. In the drugs that can't be given by the oral route, like proteins, so as drugs which are not given by oral route, they can be given here by intramuscular route. And the drawback is pain on the injection, because we are giving oily medium drugs, so there will be pain, and also there is risk of nerve injury or also infection. So example is here mainly most of proteins can be given like monoclonal antibodies, antibiotics, epinephrine, all these can be given by intramuscular route. Next, coming to the subcutaneous. So subcutaneous is like just under the skin. So the benefits here like long duration of action, self-administration is also possible. But the drawbacks are like irritants can be given and cause a skin necrosis. So if the irritants are given in the case of subcutaneous under skin, so it may cause completely skin necrosis. So here the examples are like adrenaline with of course epinephrine, and insulin and monoclonal antibodies and octreotide. So even proteins can be given subcutaneously, but the irritant should be not given. So next, coming to the rectal route. So rectal route also have benefits and drawbacks. The benefits are like 50% less of fast metabolism than the oral route, because if you're giving to the rectal route, only some goes into the portal vein and 50% goes to the IVC. So the 50% which is going to the IVC, of course it's having the bioavailability, so that it is okay maximum, but the 50% in the portal vein, only 50% goes to the liver, so biotransformation is not too much, and the irritants can also be given. So this is the main benefit of rectal. And the drawback is variable absorption, because absorption varies. So here the example is rectal diazepam and febrile seizures. So this is all about the introduction, and next let's continue the other topic of pharmacology.